Beto, Biden, Bernie beg the question, is this the right time for a white guy? Beto O'Rourke's entry Thursday into a crowded field of Democrats running for president in 2020 brought up an awkward question. For perhaps the first time ever in American politics, is this the right time for a white guy to run? It's an inverted question in a country where 44 of 45 presidents have fit that precise demographic. The current field of that makes the 6 white men in the Democratic race for president seem downright conspicuous and prone to fielding questions about whether they truly represent the face of the new Democratic Party. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders was asked to defend his very identity immediately after he announced his second candidacy. Well, he said, I would ask people to look at the totality of who I am, my energy level, my record in the United States Senate, and not just at one criteria, he said. When Vanity Fair asked O'Rourke to defend his whiteness, calling it perhaps his biggest vulnerability, he acknowledged he'd have to hire well to make his administration representative of America. I totally understand people who will make a decision based on the fact that almost every single one of our presidents has been a white man, and they want something different for this country, O'Rourke said. And I think that, does it seem unfair even sexist or racist for someone to be grilled about their heritage as a basis of evaluating a candidacy? Well, welcome to the history of campaigning as a woman or a person of color, said Kelly Dittmar, assistant professor of political science at Rutgers Camden and a scholar at the Center for American Women in Politics. It doesn't make it right, but it's certainly true that women and people of color always get asked questions on their demographics, Dittmar said, noting that often they're asked how they think they can win. It is so very white men have never been asked, why would you as a white man be elected? Dittmar added, it should be noted that there is no data to suggest that a white man has faced discrimination in seeking the Oval Office, or indeed any political office at all. But the notion that voters are far more accustomed to public debates over whether America is ready for a woman or a Jewish person, Sanders is Jewish, or a black person to be president, and for those individuals to be saddled with expectations for their demographic's future success. Hillary Clinton's, but the midterms told another story, vaulting women and minorities to political positions from Capitol Hill to capitals across the country. In New England, a national CNN exit poll of the midterm elections found that 79% of Democratic voters said it was very important to elect someone who was a racial minority, and 82% said the same about electing a woman, roughly double Republicans' answers. A Rasmussen Reports survey released in February found that 63% of likely voters think it's at least somewhat likely that the Democratic presidential nominee in 2020 will be a woman or a person of color. Just 24% still, as the 2020 race approaches, the polls are led by the few white men in the running: former Vice President Joe Biden, who hasn't even declared, Sanders, and O'Rourke. The other white men, Bernie or Beto or Biden, could be the right thing for the Democrats, said Tad Devine, a Democratic strategist who worked with Sanders in 2016 and is not aligned with the 2020 candidate. I don't think voter. He thinks the contest hinges on early voting states like Iowa and New Hampshire, overwhelmingly white, and that a white contender won't suffer unless he neglects the concerns of minority and women Democrats. The University of Southern California's Bob Shrum, who served as a strategist to several Democratic presidential candidates including John Kerry, said it would be a mistake for a candidate to run on identity politics. To win this nomination, you have to show how you can beat Trump, and that could be any number of candidates, he said. But I am sure that, Dittmar said, she finds it refreshing that questions are being asked about the ticket's diversity, in part because Democrats should be drawing a clear contrast with the Republican Party, which has become more white and male over time. But she is not counting out any of the white guys in 2020. Because history tells us otherwise. And 2018.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park.